he has already invested something in me. I'm obliged to him with my whole life now.
I almost felt guilty for not liking him back, thinking, come on, he did this and that.
Jesus Christ, people like this do exist.
The whole road was covered with spiders, quite big spiders, and with frogs.
What in the Harry Potter was happening?
I was looking for every spider not to step on it, first of all, and then because I was afraid of it and I was afraid that it would run up
on your leg.
I know that he was really tired.
This is really sweet, actually.
When you go on a first date and the partner meets you with some small present, or not a small present, I don't know, would you feel obliged to meet him the next time?
No. Maybe some years ago I would have replied otherwise, because I would definitely feel obliged and I would feel too awkward to say no. And I would think, Jesus, but he has already invested something in me. I'm obliged to him with my whole life now, maybe. Now my answer is definitely no, because it's not about the presence, it's about our connection, whether we click together, whether I feel comfy next to him, whether I feel safe with him, whether he also feels connected to me, whether I feel that we're interested in each other, or we came there just to share our mutual problems and then to part ways and never see each other again. So my answer is no, I wouldn't feel obliged.
Unfortunately, I can say, I came to that conclusion that
Same.
I am not obliged if I get some presents. But I had an experience and situation when a man came to me from abroad and
a lot of pressure already.
Yes, I already realized, okay, he spent money on a ticket to come here, and he also had to rent an apartment. We went to the restaurants and we walked a lot with each other. I can say he was pleasant, but I just didn't like him. Just didn't like him. It's not about his behavior or he did something wrong. I can just remember my feelings. I almost felt not just obliged, I almost felt guilty for not liking him back. And there was so much pressure that I almost made myself like him, thinking, come on, he did this and that, you should think positive about him, you should be grateful. After all that experience, it was such a huge relief for me when I was brave enough to say that, unfortunately, I'm sorry, we can't continue this. It was so hard for me to offend him, to say no. I didn't know how to do that, and I felt guilty for everything. We went to the theater. I even tried to pay some bills for some entertainments, just to make this journey more funny and interesting for him. I walked with him and spent my time with him, just to show some interest and respect for his visit. But I'm happy that I could finish it maybe in a week.
Well, it's fast enough, thank God.
Yeah, I did my best.
Sometimes it does take time to understand that the responsibility for his decisions is on him, not on you. I mean, he decided to come to you. He decided to maybe bring you some present. He decided to invite you for a dinner. I totally understand your point of view that, of course, the person expects something in return, at least a good attitude, but what can you do to yourself?
And it's also very important to build this sense of giving the responsibility back to other people, because I heard so many cases when, let's say, men were pushing their dates to go somewhere with them after they paid for their dinner, after they brought some expensive bouquet of flowers or something like that. I even saw some videos that the girls were filming when they were, I don't know, trying to leave or whatever, and some guy would ask, but why are you leaving? Where do you think you're going? And the girl would reply, I'm going home. Why you're asking? And he would go but I have just paid for your dinner. Aren't we going to my place? And the girl was
that is awful.
She was so furious, and she would say, who do you think you are? You think you bought me some pasta and some glass of wine and you think I'm yours forever now? And the guy would be so confused. And also, he would say, but why? I paid for our time together. I expect something rewarding in return. And I was listening to that and thinking, Jesus Christ, people like this do exist. This is ridiculous indeed. And so to guard yourself from cases like this is very important, in my opinion, to build your boundaries, to create those boundaries, and to understand that if he decided to pay for your lunch, if he decided to bring you a bouquet of flowers, it's not because you messaged him in advance and told him, I expect this bouquet of flowers, $50 on my coffee, $50 on my pasta, and something like this. And if you don't do this, I will, I don't know, behead you. So
mostly girls were growing up and thinking like if you get something, you definitely not deserve it, and you do not deserve any attention, love, normal attitude just because you are who you are. If he gave you something, you are supposed to give something back. I believe it's still great if you can eventually understand it. Can you just try to summarize what would be the red flags for you on a first date? Like, it's definitely no, I'm not gonna meet this person for the second time. If he did this.
It would be a huge red flag for me if he would invite me to a bar or some disco because I don't smoke. I don't drink any alcohol. I would definitely stay away from such a person.
Well, a small disclaimer, all my red flags that I will be talking about now have been built over these last 2 years, I would say. It's not that I was that wise before, that I told everyone that, no, I'm not going to meet you anymore after you did this. Oh, you did this to me. No, we're done. We're not a thing anymore. No, it hasn't happened even once in my life. I was always sitting and waiting. I was always accepting everything they gave me and so on and so forth. And only after all these traumatizing experiences, I came up to a conclusion that now I have a list of red flags and now I have something to protect myself with. So coming back to what you were saying about bars, for example, it's obvious to me that if you have been already chatting with that person online for some time before you met, or for example, if you met offline and you saw each other and maybe you discussed something, it would be obvious that if you do not drink, it's a bad idea to invite you to some pub or a bar. In my case, it happened just once. There was a case like that. It was not a first date. It was not even a second. It was after almost a year of our relationship. And there was a time when we had to meet up with my friend in that foreign country where I traveled to meet that guy. And we were all coming up with a place where we could go. I was oblivious to where to go because it was a foreign country, a foreign city. I was not familiar with anything over there. So, of course, I let my back then partner to decide, and he was in contact with my friend, with a girl whom I wanted to see. And somehow she was offering some nice places, and the only thing that he was offering were pubs. And she was trying to convince him that maybe we should go to some other place. And she also told me later that she was asking what I was thinking about that. But he was insisting on going to a pub, to drink some cocktails, to do something like that, regardless of the fact that I also do not drink alcohol at all.
How caring of him.
Very, as always, it was our small tradition.
I can't, I'm hardly just listening to it. It's so hard to resist from, just
punching something.
Feeling so furious.
Yes, but the fury was buried deep inside of me back then. I wasn't able to express any fury, any frustration, because I was not so into him. I was very blind to his actions, and I really wanted to have a boyfriend. I really wanted to have him as a boyfriend. I really wanted to please him, so I didn't really concentrate on the flaws back then. So, of course, we ended up going to a pub, and I was angry from the very beginning of the day, almost, because of course I didn't want to go to a pub. And for me, and he knew that also, it's very traumatizing to see my close people drinking alcohol. It's very hard to watch that, especially if they drink a lot. I can hardly talk to drunk people. I hate that with all my heart. And of course, I didn't want to see him being drunk. And somehow, deep inside, I knew that that would be the case, even though he swore that he quit drinking, that he doesn't drink at all. He told me that, oh, it used to be such a bad habit of mine.
And that is why he convinced the entire
the entire group.
company, the entire group of people to go to the pub because he swore that he will not drink alcohol.
Yes, yes. And I discussed that with him and was like, what are we going to do in that pub? And he was like, you know me, I'm not going to drink much. I will just have a couple of cocktails. I thought, okay, maybe he will have a couple of cocktails. Maybe it would be acceptable. We went there. The trouble started even before the pub because we were discussing something about our first kiss. Just not our first kiss, but our first kiss ever in our lives. And after he finished his story and I said, oh, it's so sweet the way it happened, I proceeded to talking about mine and he shut me up immediately and said, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to even imagine that you had any relationships before me. It's disgusting for me to hear about that. So he almost said, shut up, stop that. I don't want to listen to that. Of course, my mood went from this, it wasn't that high, it dropped down immediately. After that, I guess it was also because of nerves, I felt a very severe stomachache and I felt it hard to even walk. And he was somewhere ahead of me with his brother, chatting and gossiping and whatever. I was crawling behind them, already in a very bad mood, already with a huge disappointment on my face. No one paid attention to that either. So we go into that bar, into that pub, and he starts drinking like crazy. One cocktail, another one, another one, another one. Can I share this with you? Can I share your cocktail too? And it got like uncontrollable. And I was sitting like this with a mad face. I guess I even used to have a photo of us where he's smiling and I'm very mad staring at the camera because I didn't really wanted to take a picture back then and I didn't even try to apply some smile to my face because I was so furious.
Was it possible for you to just leave?
Not really. Not really because I'm not sure. I guess I had some data on my phone to get an Uber, but I had no keys from the apartment. He had the only set of keys, so I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. My only friend who would save me there was there with me. And again, I was so afraid of hurting his feelings that I didn't even think of leaving. I didn't even think of standing up and saying, hey, you, how dare you, behaving like that, ignoring me the whole evening, chatting with the whole table except for me. And how dare you, behaving like this and drinking that much and becoming an uncontrollable person, especially when you know how it feels for me. My only salvation back then was that my friend was there and she saw I felt bad with my stomach. She bought me some sparkling water. I felt better after that. She was talking to me the whole evening. She was entertaining me with a chat. She even paid for my drink. I guess I had a lemonade and that sparkling water. She offered to pay for me. He didn't offer anything. You remember, he was broke and miserable, as always. So after that, I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. There won't be an occasion where I would go to such a place and observe such a behavior and let this happen. So it's not that I'm going to stand up and leave. I'm not going to go to this place. Nope. Because I just have nothing to do there. Not to drink, not to dance. The story of my life.
I totally understand that you say that it's really hard watch the people you love when they hurt their body somehow or when they are addicted to something or it's awful and it's just like your heart is ripping while you're watching that.
He wanted me to have fun with him. He was very confused by why I was acting like this. And after that, maybe 2 weeks later, he reminded me of this situation by saying, we're going to celebrate your friend's birthday today. You are sure that you are really willing to go there? Because they are going to drink 100% and I don't want you to spoil my whole evening with your face. I still remember that and I thought, you are telling me this when it's actually my friend's birthday. Do you expect me to message her right now and say, my girl, I'm not going to attend your birthday because you're going to drink and spoil the whole day for me and I'm going to spoil the whole day for him. It was a nice celebration, by the way. The only person who was madly drunk was him. my friend was fine because she knew my attitude to that and she knew how I would react to that. So it was not the problem. The problem was the only guy in the room.
The one who promised to stay sober no matter what.
Of course, yes. Very good at promises, very bad at keeping them.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
it would be a very huge red flag for me, not only bringing me to something like this, to some establishment like that, to some place like that on the first date, but also getting drunk. Even if we go to some fancy restaurant together, but I see the person getting drunk on our first date immediately. On one hand, thank you so much for hinting me on that so fast so I can say goodbye and never see you again. On the other hand, it would be crazy for me because I would already understand that that person has no control over him and that he has an addiction. So it's a red flag, definitely.
It's always good to know about such stuff
Beforehand.
Yeah, in advance.
Lud, do you have any red flags
Yeah, maybe
to
something.
add, maybe from your experience?
It's also important for me to not feel like a free psychologist. Because I remember a couple of cases when I went to the date and the partner were just all the time telling me about the problems in his life, problems about his job, problems with his relatives, and so on and so on. And it all was on the first date.
Amazing.
And I was just walking and listening to all the stuff, maybe an hour or two. And now I'm also kind of angry at myself, like why on earth I just didn't stand up and just walk away. Okay, let's think it was my experience to not repeat this. So you just feel like somebody consumed your energy and you feel empty, tired. From another side, why such person would like to have dates with me, to walk with me, just to solve his problems. We can support each other, but not that I'm gonna listen to all that stuff and complaints and regrets and I don't know, different issues during hours. No. Especially when it is first, second date.
Of course. When you just know his name and maybe his occupation.
Like men can just tell a couple of words about what he's doing for living, but it's weird for me, like to see the men complain on something all the time.
Yeah, healthy conversation is good when you can discuss something, when you can just share your opinions. But when a person just comes to overwhelm you with their living problems, it's weird. I also heard many stories, it didn't happen to me, but I heard many stories of people that their date was complaining about their ex on the first date.
Oh.
It's very strange.
Also strange,
It's
yeah.
so peculiar. Why do you think your date would decide to meet you again if they have just heard all your living problems in one go during the first 20 minutes of you seeing each other for the first time, potentially, especially if you included a rant about your previous partner?
That is so disrespectful to,
Well, and
to
yes,
himself and
yes, of course,
to everyone. I
Of
would
course,
say.
there are cases, okay, when the blame is all on that person. Of course, usually two people are responsible for their relationship, but sometimes there are cases when one person is
Well,
more
yeah.
fine, the other one is more rude, abusive, whatever. But it doesn't mean that you have to come to a date and complain about that abusive partner to your current date. Because how are you going to impress him then? What do you want from him? For example, who are talking about a girl and a guy on a date. What do you as a girl want from him? You want him to listen and to obey, like you want him not to repeat these mistakes, but it shouldn't come from your story of your past life. It should come from his understanding, from his manners and so on, not just from your story, that he would take into account and think, okay, I'm not going to do that to her because she has already suffered a lot. It's not going to help. It will just create an impression of you as of a strange person, of a person that is rude, of a person that decides to bring that energy to the date.
Well, I
That'd be
believe
strange.
it's just kind of relations when the person just thinking about what I can take from you, how I can use you.
Yes.
So you can pay for my dinners, you can, I don't know, entertain me somehow, you can support me,
Solve my problems.
solve some of my problems, give some advices, or I can just sit here and keep on telling you all the sad stories of my life.
Questionable.
Interesting. And while we're talking about conversations on a first date, and I mean, a couple of first dates, like the very beginning of any relationships. So, would you pay attention if the person would use a lot of some cruel words or a lot of like dirty language, swearing?
Words. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, of course, because the way a person's talking to me shows actually his attitude. Like I can't say that a person respects me when I understand that he uses swear words all the time.
Same on my end, definitely, especially if the person is expressing some violent attitude and some disrespectful attitude with their words, moreover with their actions, of course. It would be a huge red flag. And curse words are also a good signal to me that would say that the person is disrespectful. The person whom we were mentioning previously, whom I was talking about, was using a lot of swear words. With me, maybe not that much, but when I was around, when he was talking to other people, especially to his brother, especially in his native language, it was such a stream of curse that, Lord, I guess I used all the swear words in that language just by listening to him and his brother talking. And now I understand that it was madly disrespectful because who am I to you? A gangster from your hood? No, I'm a lady, actually. I have to be treated like a lady. So now I wouldn't support that. I wouldn't sit there and wait till he is out of his curse words so we can continue the conversation. I think that you can use some curse words when you are telling some story, but not like 2 words curse word, 2 words curse word, not like that. You can emphasize something, but
Just
not
to make the story sound
just
funny.
just to make it sound funny, but a couple of times during a chat, not all the time, like it's a parasite word.
Definitely.
So like to fill in the space. And same thing about expressing some strange attitude to people in words, for example. Let's drop the actions, let's talk about words. When you see that a person is being rude and disrespectful to some waiter, for example, or to a person at the stall where you're buying snacks, or to some driver, to a taxi driver, to whomever, it also means a lot. If they
it
have this
definitely does.
attitude toward this random person, you will definitely have tons of this attitude yourself, because it's easy to disrespect other people and it's much easier to disrespect and humiliate your close people. Unfortunately, it's like that. So that's the thing that I would also pay attention to. And one of the stories that I mentioned previously was about one time when we were on a date where I paid, so I don't know if I should call it a date or some, again, round of humiliation, but let's call it so. There was
Round of humiliation.
Yes, there was a case when there was a couple sitting right next to us, and it was a gay couple. There were 2 boys, and they were so adorable. I spotted them occasionally, and I was admiring them because they were so sincere. They were holding hands occasionally. They were blowing some kisses to each other. They were discussing something so lively, and they were also animated. And I was really happy for them because maybe I felt that I lacked this in my back then relationship. And I decided to attract my partner's attention to that. And I said, hey, look over there. There are 2 sweet boys over there. It seems like they're having a date. It's so sweet that they found each other. And I'm not even sure that I was able to finish my sentence because his face turned angry. And he told me, stop this. Don't talk about this to me ever again. I do not support that. I do not want to even hear about that from you. Stop that. No. End of story. This is it.
Better give me a bottle of, I don't know, something.
Yes, better give me a bottle of vodka and stay away. And I remember how my mood dropped again then, because that was so rude and that was so disrespectful to those people. And it was so disrespectful to me because he didn't express his opinion in a polite way. Well, another story is about
Yeah.
what exactly that opinion was. But the way he expressed it and the way he was so aggressive to those boys whom he didn't even know, it made me feel really bad. And I remember that I shut down. And I don't really remember what exactly we were doing after that, but I remember that my mood dropped and that I was very sad and that I didn't know how to talk to him because I'm showing you some sign of love. I'm sharing something nice with you, some nice emotion, something so bright in our everyday world, and you are reacting like this. So now for me, that would be an immense, huge red flag. So you cannot treat other people like this, and you cannot see them treating other people like this and expect them to treat you better. Why?
Of course. Because,
How are you different from other people? You are just another person, but you are still that bunch of people whom he is used to disrespect. So you will be just the next one. And I was the next one.
And I have another question
Me
for
too.
you. For example, just imagine a situation when you are sitting with some guy in a cafe or in a restaurant. In case there is some third person who says something rude, maybe to you directly, how would you expect that guy to treat that situation?
Well, I believe the main idea of the date is to realize whether you feel comfortable with the person and comfortable and safe. So if I'm with a partner and he would not protect me in such situation, I will of course deal this entire situation on my own somehow if I have to. But it would be like super repulsive for me, and I would definitely not be willing to see this partner again, to have another date. What for? And I remember there was a situation when me and kind of a boyfriend at that time, we were walking outside somewhere near the sea, and there was just some wild dog, but this dog just was running out of nowhere from the high grass, and I didn't see it, and the dog was on my side.
Okay.
So when the boy just pushed the dog with his leg in a second, didn't even think about it.
That's a good reaction.
That was a really good reaction, and I felt so safe with him at that moment that I still remember that situation.
Can understand.
And then there was another situation with another boy when we met, and again. We walked, and it was in the evening, and again the dog was running towards us, and then it turned out that he's afraid of dogs. And he kind of got hidden behind me, and I was like, God.
Definitely not a match.
Yeah, so after that, of course you feel like it's not a man next to you. Yeah.
Up on the tree.
Yeah, so of course it matters a lot, I would say, to feel safe next to your partner.
He's been yelling louder than you.
Well, it was funny kind of, but it was, huge minus.
Especially if you are afraid of dogs and you can expect that some situations like this will happen at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And you would appreciate it if a person could at least, I don't know, switch places with you and at least keep you away from the dog, or if the dog is running, to do something with it. Not just to hide on the tree. You should be the one hiding on the tree.
Well, but that happened. It was funny, really, but scary for me.
In long perspective, yes, it's a bit
I
scary.
also remember the situation. I was walking with my husband, and there was like a long road to his house, and it was really dark outside. The whole road was covered with spiders, quite big spiders, and with frogs. spiders and frogs.
Frogs are fine, spiders
No,
not.
not fine.
I'm afraid of frogs and I'm afraid of spiders even more than frogs. I asked him to
Ew.
turn on like the light on his cell phone.
What in the Harry Potter was happening?
I was looking for every spider not to step on it first of all, and
Yes.
then because I was afraid of it and I was afraid that it would run up
Up on your leg. Ooh.
that would be just a disaster to me.
Nightmare.
So I told him, maybe let's take a taxi to your home because I'm afraid of all that stuff running on the road. But he said it takes just like 5 minutes to get to my home, so it's just there is no real need for a taxi. Come on, climb on my back and I will carry you.
That's what we call a gentleman.
And he carried me all the way. I do realize that I am quite a heavy person. Okay, not that heavy, but
No.
he's been carrying me. I know that he was really tired by the time we reached his house, but
this is
that was a great situation. I was like, I was sitting on his back and saying something. Come on, come on.
We're almost
You
there.
can do this.
Almost there.
I know that he was really tired.
This is really sweet, actually. That's
But
a
I
green
supported him as much as I could.
That's the brightest green flag to imagine.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Well, no, I would just faint, I guess. If I saw that many spiders in one place, I would just faint and my partner would be obliged to carry me because otherwise he would just need to leave me laying there on the grass in the field.
Oh.
Lord, it's such a scary picture to imagine.
Yeah, and you know, it's always so emotional that
Uh-huh.
you always remember it.
Yes.
There's always bright emotions in your mind.
When you're scared. So it's also nice, not maybe for the first date because a person can potentially not be aware of that yet, but it's also nice when a person remembers your phobias, something you're scared of, so that they can also pay attention to that. For example, not to bring you to places where there are many dogs, especially wild dogs. Not to bring you to some spooky places or some old places where there are many spiders. As an arachnophobic person, I would appreciate the latter a lot because it would scare the hell out of me. I wouldn't go out of my house ever after that, I believe, if I saw something that you saw. And again, I had the situation when people were aware of my phobia, not even the previous devilish boyfriend that we've been discussing here all the time. There is a small story about that too. But I had another boyfriend before that.
Doubt.
Yes, I had another boyfriend before that, and we had just a small convo about my phobia. And I remember I mentioned it to him that I'm so afraid of spiders, I wouldn't ever go to a place where there are many spiders. And he told me that we had to go to some shed or somewhere where I know there are many spiders, or for example, to some outdoors toilet, something like this. I told him that, no, do you understand? There are so many spiders. I'm not going to go there. I'm so afraid of them. And he was staying there and he was joking, but half joking, half being serious. And he told me, oh, so you are so afraid of spiders. So I guess I know what I should do. I should just shut you up in the room full of spiders so that you get over your phobia and that would be it. And smiling after that. I didn't take a joke. I reacted somehow, I don't remember how, but I didn't laugh at that. I didn't say, oh, such a lovely idea, thank you for coming up with that. No, I said something, not rude, but something. I said something to that, and he never brought it up again. But it was also strange to me. Why would you manipulate on that? Why would you joke with something like this if you know that I'm so scared? And another small case that I mentioned, the other guy also knew that I was arachnophobic, and I told him that I'm scared even of some realistic images of scary spiders. Of course, you know these pictures of some cute, colorful spiders. There can be cute, some smiling spiders, something like this, some memes. Okay,
Spiders?
I can withstand some cartoon spiders. I can withstand some small, colorful, fluffy spiders. Something that's very plushy, cute, plushy looking, something like this. But he sent me a picture of a tattoo that he made on his mom's forearm or shoulder. and there was a huge tarantula or something like this. That was a tattoo on his mom's head that he made. And I opened that picture.
So cute.
Amazing, adorable, I would say. And I do not remember, maybe I didn't notice this picture right away because he sent me plenty of those. Or maybe I saw it, but I thought, okay, there couldn't be a spider there, so I will still open it. I opened it and I get really scared. But I do not remember, I guess I told him something after that. But I told him something before that I'm so scared of spiders that I cannot stand even pictures with them. Who cared? So now if I see this again, obviously maybe not during the first date because it's not likely, but later if I feel such a treatment of my fears, of my phobias, I would already know that this person is just making fun of me, that they just want to take advantage of me, show that they are not afraid, for example. So I would consider it a red flag too. So to know more spiders, scary dogs and creepy dates in our life, I believe we all deserve to have something healthy.
So guys, thank you so much everyone who joined us today. We were really happy to share our creepy stories with you, and we hope that would be somehow useful, a bit interesting, funny for you because not all of them were so scary, but we truly hope that in your life there will be lots of bright and pleasant moments and less creepy stories.
Yes, if you are willing to share any of those with us, you're welcome to do it in the comments. And what I want to say in conclusion, just respect your own feelings first, because once you do that, you will not anyone take advantage of you later.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So thank you, our dear viewers, for staying with us, for spending your time with us. If you enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to give us your thumbs up.
And subscribe.
Yeah, that would be also great. And thank you very much.
See you in our next episode. Bye.
Bye.